When it comes to premium laptops of yesteryear, there are a couple of names that always come to mind. First one being, of course, is Apple. They make premium designs, premium builds, and it's really first rate. And there is Sony. Remember them? Yeah, they had the VAIO line, and I had a few of their premium laptops, and I really loved them over the years. But Sony got out of the laptop business back in 2014 when it sold its VAIO line to Transcosmos, and a lot of the Sony engineers went along for the ride. So the good news is you still get the VAIO line today. That's right, they are making products. I actually reviewed a couple of years ago the VAIO Z Canvas, a 2-in-1 premium, very high-end, very nice. It was a little expensive, but I thought it was worth it. Well, I have their newest VAIO S in the studio today. I've been using it for the past 2 weeks, putting it through its paces, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed. Hey everybody, this is Andrew from AMDtech, and this is my review of the VAIO S for 2018. Make sure you're subscribed, as I have a lot of very exciting things on the way to the studio, and of course don't forget to follow me on Twitter for the latest updates. The VAIO S starts at $11.99 US. I'll put the link below for more information and where you can buy one. You get an 8th generation Intel processor, either the Core i5-8250U or the Core i7-8550U. It has either 8 or 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, and it starts at 256 gigabytes of PCIe SSD storage, and it's configurable up to 1 terabyte of SSD storage. In a lot of ways, the VAIO S of 2018 is a throwback. It has a lot of the legacy ports you don't get anymore, although it did sacrifice one major modern port. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But it really is a harken back to the days when Sony was a laptop player in the high-end game. Sony sold off its VAIO division in 2014 to the Transcosmos Corporation, and many of the engineers from Sony went along in that VAIO deal. And that's why you get a lot of the same Sony signature cues in the new VAIO line. One thing that struck me right away was just how light this design is. In fact, it was made out of a magnesium alloy, but I found it a little bit more rigid than that of the LG Gram line that I recently checked out at CES 2018 back in January. And with that magnesium alloy materials used, you will get some pretty good durability. I'm pretty confident in that. So far in my use with it, it has held up really well. It looks as brand new as the day I got it, which is about 2 weeks ago. I really like the brushed metal on the inside. I like the way it looks. It's sleek looking, and I like the fact that it doesn't attract any fingerprints. Now, one of the things I really like about the VAIO S is its display. It sports a 13.3-inch IPS display. It has a 1080p resolution, 1920 by 1080. That's 166 pixels per inch, and it has a 16 by 9 aspect ratio. It gets pretty bright at nearly 300 nits, making it good for both indoor and outdoor use, especially since the fact it doesn't have a glossy display. It has an anti-glare matte display. It covers the color gamut really well, 96% sRGB and 74% Adobe RGB. With this having a traditional laptop design more or less, it does not have a touch option, so you cannot use your finger or any kind of stylus to use on this device. But again, this is a traditional laptop first and foremost, so therefore you're not going to need the touch, or at least that's what VAIO thinks you're not going to need. I kind of wish it did have it. Some laptops do have it. Obviously Windows 10 is optimized for it, so that's a kind of a bit of a disappointment in that area. With its main focus towards business users, you get an array of legacy ports, not something you see every day with modern day laptops. It's a throwback for sure. Now on the left side of the device, you have your DC in, you have your Kensington lock port, and you get 2 USB 3.0 Type A. And a 3.5mm headset jack, which worked well with no interference and no static. Very good. Moving to the right side, you have a full-size SD card slot, a USB Type A, an HDMI port, Ethernet port, and of course a VGA port with that focus towards the business user. Not something you see every day. Like I said, this is going to have some of those legacy ports that you don't get in a modern day laptop. And I think they missed on one big port, which is the USB-C, a modern port that I think they needed to have. Now, I like having all these legacy ports, but I don't think it would have been a stretch to put a USB-C port to allow some charging, maybe even Thunderbolt 3 support. That would have been great. Unfortunately, you don't get that with this laptop. You get all these legacy ports, but not the one modern port that we all need, USB-C. Now, the charger does have a USB port to charge your peripherals, which is a nice touch, and it does have its own proprietary charging system, very reminiscent of the Sony laptop lines of the past. But again, no USB-C to me is a disappointment. As far as Windows Hello login is concerned, there is a fingerprint sensor located on the right side just below the keyboard, and it worked well. Setup was easy and pretty much registered my finger every time I used it. But that is your only option for logging in with Windows Hello. There is no Windows Hello camera on the front. Now, speaking of the camera, it's a 0.97 megapixel webcam. Let's see it in action. So this is the front-facing camera on the VAIO S here for 2018. Remember, this device is geared towards business users first and foremost. So Skype and video conferencing in general will be important. It's a 720p 30 frames per second webcam, and I would say it's adequate. I'm in a decently lit room, and I think it's okay. Now, I would have preferred, obviously, for a 1080p webcam. We recently saw one on that new HP NVX2 that I just took my first look at, and I'm thinking this is not quite as good. But again, it's in the proper place on the top of the screen, and I certainly can do your Skype and video conferencing on it when you need it, if you are doing meetings and so forth and you need a conference in. But I want to know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section below. What do you think of this webcam on the VAIO S here for 2018? The VAIO S has a 35 watt-hour battery, and that's on the small side for a 13-inch laptop. Now, having said that, with my AMDtech endurance test with 40% screen brightness, doing Netflix, YouTube, some light gaming, some Photoshop, some word processing, some web browsing under the Chrome browser, you're looking at around 7 hours and 10 minutes. Of course, your mileage may vary depending on the task at hand, so please keep that in mind. And here's how it did against its competition. Of note here is the Dell XPS 13 9370 with a full HD non-touch display. It did much better than the VAIO S, and I wanted to point that one out because I think this is a direct competitor to that type of laptop, which has non-touch, and it is a 13-inch laptop as well. Taking a look inside the device, you see there are certain things you can upgrade, such as the SSD. It's a PCIe NVMe, and you could also change out the Wi-Fi card. It's the Atheros Wi-Fi card. It's socketed in, so if you want to put a different one in, that is certainly available to you. Now, the RAM seems soldered on, so you won't be able to upgrade that, but again, you can upgrade the Wi-Fi card and the SSD card. What's interesting is that there is a slot there that I think is for a LTE modem. Now, when I opened up the laptop, there was no LTE modem inside, but there is a space with 2 antenna leads that would lead me to believe that there will be space for an LTE modem that they can either give as an option, or maybe you can put one in yourself. I find that very interesting, and especially since this is geared towards business users, that totally makes a lot of sense. Now, as far as the bottom of the device is concerned, it has a matte black finish and it does attract fingerprints. It's just about the only place on this laptop that does attract fingerprints. But having said that, it's easy to clean and you don't really look at it too much since it's most of the time on the table or on your lap. Now, it does have 2 bottom-facing speakers. Let's hear them in action. Now, I actually like the keyboard at 1.2 millimeters of key travel. It's a bit on the shallow side, but that's okay. It's a very comfortable keyboard and a very quiet keyboard. I also like the fact that it's backlit. It lit up really well in a dimly lit room. It came in really handy. And I also like the fact that when you lift the lid up, it raises the keyboard up to a nice typing angle, making it really comfortable to type on for extended periods of time. Now it has a Microsoft Precision touchpad and something you don't really see very often, 2 physical buttons, but of course you can use your tap to click if you want to. It's a pretty responsive touchpad. I just feel it was a bit undersized, but overall it certainly can get the job done. Now as far as the SSD, it's a PCIe NVMe and it did really well on the read and the write on the Crystal Disk Mark test. Check it out. And here's how it did on the Geekbench 4 test, a 12,918 on the multi-core score and a 3514 on the single-core score. As far as the OpenCL test, its built-in graphics did 22,014. Now there's no dedicated GPU as you'd find in some other 13 and 15-inch models. Not in this case, you get the built-in graphics and that's it. And here's how it did against its competition. It held its own pretty well, as you can see. And the reason why you're getting better performance is because of something called VAIO True Performance. Basically, that's enhanced cooling for longer periods of turbo boost, hence the better performance. I rarely saw it ever go above 80 degrees centigrade, which is really excellent, keeping it nice and cool under heavy load. So to bring it all home, can I recommend the VAIO S for 2018? And the answer is yes, I can recommend it. I do like this laptop, although there is one glaring omission on this laptop. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I like the fact that it has a nice full HD, non-glossy matte display, really refreshing. I've been seeing a lot of glossy displays as of late. Having a matte display to me is a real refreshing thing. I also like its nice array of legacy ports, its brushed metal design, the enhanced performance that runs cool under heavy load. It's extremely light and portable, and I really think at $11.99 you're getting good value for your money. But of course, it is missing that USB-C port that every laptop now in 2018 going forward should definitely have. There is no excuse for this laptop not to have it. There was room for it. Look, they found room for a VGA port. Of course, they could have put a USB-C port. And another requirement I have going forward is I want to see Thunderbolt 3 going forward, anything over $1,000. Hopefully the manufacturers will follow suit and will put that into future iterations of these laptops. But with those negatives aside, I have no hesitation recommending this. It's a great VAIO tradition that has continued here in 2018. It may not have the Sony moniker on it, but it definitely has the VAIO moniker. I'm going to give this an 82%, making the VAIO S 2018 worth your money. So what do you think about the VAIO S for 2018? I really want to say Sony, but it's VAIO. And I really do like it. I think it has a lot of the ports that you just don't get today anymore. I know I don't really use a VGA port. A lot of business users may still use it, of course, but I don't use it. That's why I would have preferred to have a USB-C. But having said that, I love the fact that it does have a full-size SD card slot, not something you see in a 13-inch laptop every day anymore. Even though Dell XPS 13 went away from the full-size SD card slot and went with the micro SD card slot, and that's a downgrade in my book. But I really love its build quality. It's brushed aluminum. It's very light, under 2.3 pounds or something to that effect. Very light, very easy to carry around, very portable. Take it with you to meetings, take with you on the go. I really like it. It's very reminiscent of the LG Gram line that I just recently checked out at CES 2018 back in January with that magnesium alloy materials used. I think this one is actually a little bit more rugged, a little bit more durable, a little bit more rigid. So I actually prefer this over the LG Gram line. I'll be reviewing the LG Gram 15 very soon, so stay tuned for that. But getting back to this computer, the VAIO S 2018, I really think it really does bring a lot to the table. Performance is one of its key things that it brings to the table. In fact, I like the fact that you get that extra performance with that overclocking or whatever it is that they do. You're getting a little bit better numbers. Now, of course, I wish it did have a dedicated GPU, like maybe say the MX150, like we've been seeing in a few of these laptops lately, 13-inch category, but this doesn't have that. But you can do some gaming. You can, of course, do Windows Store gaming, and you can do some gaming if you turn down the settings. But again, I'm not really thinking this is for gaming. This is more towards productivity. This is geared towards business users. And business users love having those matte displays, and I don't blame them. It's very refreshing here in 2018 to finally see a laptop with a matte display, very crisp, very sharp, full HD resolution, 1920 by 1080, and I really like it. It's actually really refreshing to see that after seeing so many high glossy displays in and day out here on this channel. But then again, I wish it did have a touchscreen option, which it doesn't. Okay, there are some laptops out there. I know that Lenovo makes in their ThinkPad line matte displays with touchscreen, so it can be done, and that is geared towards business users, by the way. So it can be done. So that's a little bit of a negative there. But overall, I think the display is very nice. Battery life, I thought could have been a little bit better. Remember, they only used a 35 watt-hour battery. I thought it could have been a little bit bigger, a little bit better. You get about 7+ hours, a little bit over. Of course, that will depend on what you're doing with that laptop. So your mileage may vary, so please keep that in mind. But overall, I think it's a really good buy at $1199 starting for the Core i5-8250U. You get 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. You get the 256 gigabytes of the PCIe NVMe SSD storage. Overall, I think it's a decent value, good build quality, premium look and feel. I really do like it. So I think I'm going to recommend it at this point. But again, the biggest negative to me in this whole thing is the lack of USB-C, whether it be charging, whether it be Thunderbolt 3 support, it just doesn't have it. And I think that's a big miss. But that's about it. Everything else in this laptop makes this a really good workhorse. But I'm curious to know what you think. Leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know what you think of the new VAIO S for 2018. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. Of course, I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and of course our website, AMDtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMDtech. See ya.